Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name is Vin PF and on today's episode we've got another Whisky In, Whisky Out, this time for the month of March 2025. It's been a little bit of time since I've done a video. I've had a sore throat for about 3 weeks now, and I'm not one of these kind of people who records loads in advance or anything like that, so basically a video comes out when I'm able to do a video. That's how I've always operated the channel. So unfortunately it's been a bit of a light month in terms of videos. Sorry about that, but hopefully I'll be back on the old saddle soon, and definitely got a review coming out this week, as we'll talk about a little bit in a moment. Today then, Whisky In, Whisky Out, your favourite and mine. I'm going to do the same thing as I've always done. The whiskies in first and the whiskies out after, and you'll be able to scrub along below with the chapters if you're interested in one or the other. And of course, full links in the description below to reviews of the ones I've killed, and to reviews when I come to update them, when I finally do the ones that I've had in this month. Usually I tend to get around to them pretty quickly. But yeah, there'll be some more details in the old description below, so make sure you go and check that out. And if this is the first time you're here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it then. A bit of a light month this month, so Whisky In. We've got, first one is this circumstantial, circumstance distillery now. But this is an interesting one because it came my way by a stilling cask, which you can probably just about see on the label down there. I'm not going to go into this whiskey too much detail today, but basically the stilling cask concept, which is something I'm going to cover on the channel in a couple of weeks, because I've had 3 of their bottles now. And it's essentially, they call it a share, right? But you can go on their website and see what casks they've got available, and you can essentially pre-order your bottle. But what you do is you pay for the whiskey up front, and then you pay for the taxes when it comes time to ship. So in case of this particular bottle, for instance, it cost me something like £25 2 or 3 years ago. Now it's come of age, it cost me another 22 quid or something like that in taxes, which is fine. The reason why they do that is because taxes can change. You don't want to be paying for taxes up front and then it changes and then the distillery has to take the hit on that. So that's the reason why they do that. But it's a great way of them generating some cash nice and early, and getting great bottles of whiskey to enthusiasts. But there's some dirt cheap whiskey on there. Like this one here is 39 months old, but it's a 60% whiskey in Saison beer yeast, which apparently I quite like. Anyway, I'm going to be going into that a little bit in detail in a couple of weeks' time, but really fascinating concept, something I really enjoy, although you have to be careful on the dates, because what happened to me was I basically went on there and grabbed a few bargains 2 or 3 years ago without really looking at the dates, and then so far this year, 2025, I've had 3 different deliveries, all come in very quick succession, so you have to be very aware that that sort of charge is coming your way. But yeah, interesting one. Keep an eye out for my video on that. Now, I only have one other bottle in this month, but I think you'll agree it's a bit of a box. It's a bit of a box. I'm not going to go into this too much because I want to do my video on it. But here, I've got here a collaboration between Ardnah Merkin and Marlowe Watch Company. Yeah, I'll show you quickly. This isn't a proper unboxing, but you can see here, that's it. You'll have to wait until my video to see the rest. But essentially what I've got here is a whiskey and a watch in a box together. Super lucky to have been sent that. So yeah, look out for my video coming this week. I'm going to do a full video on that, and yeah, I think you guys will find it interesting. Okay then, let's get on to Whisky Out and see what we've got. Again, another fairly light month. This time only got 3. In no particular order. I've got here a Buffalo Trace, and this is a single barrel select from Milroys of London. I really love Buffalo Trace. Their standard release for about 30 odd quid is perfectly great bourbon. Single barrel, even better, and a barrel pick at 45%, even better than that. I actually don't think I reviewed this in the end. I thought I did. It was a lend off a friend, or at least a give off a friend at my local whiskey club, and I was meant to review it, and I think I accidentally killed it without reviewing it, so massive apologies. But my little bottle kill review is absolutely banging. Really love Buffalo Trace. For me, it's like one of those palate resetter whiskies. Like if you have, like, my favourite example is Glenfiddich 12-year-old. People tend to move on from Glenfiddich 12 pretty quickly when you get into the kind of big wide world of whiskey, and they tend to forget about those 40%er but really good quality whiskies, and that happens to Buffalo Trace. I think people start out on Buffalo Trace nice and cheap and move on very quickly to very more expensive stuff, but don't forget about it. It's perfectly good whiskey. Really enjoyable stuff. Next up then, we've got the Benromach. This is the vintage 2012 cask strength batch number 1. Now, this, I mean, I've been holding on to this for a while. Nice peat. I actually killed off another Benromach fairly recently. The contrasts, and I remember saying that yeah, it was fine, but it didn't really hit my kind of notes. This one did. 60.2% peated. How I came about this bottle on my Discord, which again, you know, I don't talk about it enough, but Discord, go and check it out. Links in the description below. There's a great community on there. One of the lads on there, James, years ago now, set up a tasting for us on there. A few select people got involved, and he sent us blind tasting, and we all got on a video call together privately. It wasn't on YouTube or anything like that, and we went through each of them. He selected some absolute bangers of whiskies, and this was one of them, and it was my favourite of the day. And I remember saying, like I always do on these tasting notes, if it ends up being less than 60 quid or near and thereabouts, then I'm just going to buy it. And this was about 65 quid, I think, which is an absolute steal for what we got here. But yeah, I kept it as long as I could, but eventually it got down to my self-imposed kill zone, which tends to be roughly around where the label is. You know, if we're talking about, I don't know, what, a fifth of the bottle is left, that's getting killed, no matter how good that bottle is, no matter how expensive it is, no matter what age it is. If it gets down that low, it's getting killed, because the last thing I want to do is spoil a good whiskey by leaving it too long in the bottle. Just my opinion. Finally then, we've got Glenlivet 2019. This was a fantastic whiskey, really indicative of where these guys are going. Nice and youthful, and I quite like youthful whiskey. Good value whiskey. You know, this is a community-owned distillery. The guys who sent me this bottle, actually, I'm pretty sure they don't even take a wage, which is insane. But I really love what they're doing up there, and it's one of those distilleries that you can tell is only going to get better with age. You know, some people would criticise it for being a bit youthful, but again, I don't mind that. The youthful whiskies tend to have a kind of like a bright effervescence about them, whereas the obviously more matured whiskey tends to be a bit more, dare I say, luxurious, a bit more silky. But there's room in the world for all whiskies, I think. You know, even the dirt cheap stuff that I'm not going to drink, but it exists for a reason. And this, I think, a distillery worth keeping an eye on for sure. There you go. That's my Whisky In, Whisky Out this month. A little bit of a light one, as I said earlier. Sometimes I get loads, sometimes I don't get so much. My buying habits, to round off the show, have changed significantly this year. Not to get into it too much in detail, but YouTube ad revenue has changed in the last couple of years, and it's not kicking out as much as it used to do. So my sort of buying power is kind of relatively diminished, especially with having a young family now as well. Obviously, when I started the channel, I was young and free, and now I'm knocking on. I've got a small family to think about. I've got fences falling down and all that sort of stuff. So whiskey has taken a bit of a kind of back hit for me. Stuff like the still in cask helps, because I made that buying decision like 2-3 years ago. So when it came around, I've got to redeem that. So, but apart from that, I haven't bought many bottles of whiskey. This month, technically, I've bought no bottles of whiskey, because that one I bought a couple of years ago. Yeah, let me know what you think about that in the description below. I think the industry's changing a little bit. I think people are chilling out a little bit. Certainly at the start of this year, my personal whiskey this year that I've released was the Firkin. That one there still available compared to last year when I released the Glasgow. That was an absolute off-the-shelf sellout. So yeah, if you're interested, go and check that out. Would more than happily have that on your shelf if you're interested in Madeira whiskey. Yeah, let me know what you think about that below. Have your habits been changing recently? And of course, as normal, let me know what your ins and outs are for this month. If you're similar to me, if you've had barely any in, barely any out, then I want to know that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again on more videos coming soon. Cheers.